Good morning from the Wild TV Safari Live. This is a very live and interactive safari. Irons from your bath, should you choose, here at Djuma. My name is James Hendry. Andrew is on camera today. He's dressed for the North Pole. He's going to probably boil to death during the course of the day. It's going to be a hot one. On the other vehicle, we have got Brent Leo Smith, and he is going to be on foot today with Brian. Two of them, roughly combined, make up the height of a very large bull giraffe. In the final control, we have... Oh, sorry, Andrew's pointing at a lioness. She's coming across. I'll just keep talking. You watch the lioness. Hello. Oh, she's staring into my soul. In the final control, we have Tara and Louise, and Eugene knocking about, trying to fix the bits and pieces that make up the technological wonder that is the live safari. We are live and interactive. Please interact with us. Talk to us. Comment. Tell us what you think, ask us some questions, hashtag Safari Live on the tweet. You may be able to hear a cuckoo, African cuckoo above us going whoop, 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 whoop. So if you wish to tweet like that cuckoo, hashtag Safari Live, otherwise questions at wildearth.tv if you on the internet, on the email. Now, let us get on with the business end of the day. Beautiful lions here, and in the background you can see them looking up. I can hear a herd of buffalo growling. Not growling, but bellowing. And I wonder why they're doing that. I'm just going to call Brent. Brent was trying to hail me. I wonder if there isn't trouble with that herd of buffalo. Brent, go ahead. Okay, copy, thanks very much. Brent says the buffalo are coming down here. Now, he is on the walking vehicle because Jigger, the other driving vehicle, is, here comes another lion, is in for repairs. So he will follow the buffalo, possibly down here. Now, this young lion has got a very nasty wound on his back end. I think that was inflicted by a hyena myself. There's been some debate over whether it was perhaps a buffalo. This pride, the Salala pride, 3 young male lions you can see with their scraggly teenage beards. They look like sort of Johnny Depp circa 1982. Oh, that's an interesting thing. It's always difficult to explain when two brothers start doing that to each other. Right. 3 young male lions and 3 females, and that behavior that you saw there is probably some sort of dominance display, and it's also indicative of the fact that these chaps are now starting to hit what would be termed puberty. They're starting to come, the testosterone levels will start to go up, and they'll start to behave like, instead of just young lions, they'll start to behave like teenage lions, and very like any other mammal. This is quite astonishing. And of course, this is the precursor to their independence, this kind of behavior. And what happens, and Meredith, thank you for your question, when do they leave the pride? What happens is they will eventually be thrown out by the dominant male lions of the area. And that will happen normally when they're about 2.5 years old, but it can happen as late as 4. Now, this is quite exciting. So just to keep you posted, the buffalo are apparently heading towards us here. They're probably about 400 meters away on quarantine clearings, which is a clearing just off to where Andrew is facing the camera now. And the lions, if nothing happens, if those buffalo don't come towards them now, I think it's going to be a hot day, and I don't think that they're going to move a great deal from where they are right now. Andrew, should we just go around a little bit, and we'll just get a view? If those buffalo do come into the frame, we'll get them. So this pride of lions, astonishing group, have eaten 5 or 6 buffalo in the last week or so. Now that is an astonishing amount of buffalo meat to have consumed. What I'm going to do is just, whoa, that's marvelous. Getting some decent interaction here. I'm just going to flick the car around, sorry Andrew, so that I may talk with you and you can look at the lions at the same time. And we can have everything in view. Oh dear. And does that work for you? Right. Let's see what happens here. That lioness there has got no tail. This is not particularly usual lion behavior, I have to say. Lions are very adept tree climbers, but that is not particularly, that's not a sturdy lion tree, that. Very ungraceful, I must say. And you can probably hear the buffalo lowing off to the west of where we are now. And that lioness and all the rest of the pride is now looking up towards the clearing where the buffalo's coming from. And Judy in Canada, you've turned away from the Canadian election results to watch Safari Live. Judy, I don't blame you for that at all. I think it's much more exciting possibly watching some buffalo coming down to drink at the water with a pride of lions lying in wait, instead of some politicians pontificating about what they promised to do should they come into power. There, I can see a buffalo. Andrew, can you see the first buffalo there coming through? There they come. Just in the distance there. And Chris Rogue, as you say, another buffalo hunt would be very cool. Absolutely, especially in the light. Look at this. Okay, now the lions are away. Now they're up and watching. Well, one of them is licking his bottom, but the rest of them are up and watching. And there is one actually so close to me now. The tailless lioness is lying looking, but she is probably about 1.5 meters away. There, that's her there. You can see her 1.5 meters away from the car. And as one of our highly skilled directors was pointing out to me yesterday, it's obviously quite difficult for people to understand the size of a lion and the distance that they are from the vehicles. And they're about sort of, these lionesses are probably weighing in at about 150 kilograms, and that means if you multiply that by 2.2, almost 400 pounds. Each of these lions is probably about the same as that. The young male's about the same size as a lioness. I don't know what these lionesses are thinking. They are so close right now. I thought for a second there she was going to perhaps hop onto the bonnet. Here come the buffalo. I'm very interested as to why the lionesses should be disappearing off into the bush here. I can only think that these buffalo have not spotted the lions yet. Here comes another young male. I wonder if they aren't trying to get into the cover, perhaps. This is magnificent. Hugely exciting. There come the buffalo there. Huge herd coming down. Now, of course, they are desperate to drink. The water is very concentrated at the moment. There's a very small pumped pan at this waterhole, so a little pond of pumped fresh water. The buffalo know that. They have to drink. The lions know that, and they will hang around here, and certainly around all the waterholes, waiting to see what comes down to drink. This is just fantastic. And I'm not going to ask Andrew to show you this, but there is a young male behind me sort of sharpening his claws on a tree. There, he stopped now. And above the scene of sort of tension that's playing out on the ground, the birds are calling in the trees above, oblivious to what could be quite a dramatic event. I'm not sure why the rest have disappeared into the bush. They've decided that daytime is not a good time to hunt buffalo. That may well be the case, because they will irritate the buffalo. If they're here, the buffalo will be upset. That is a huge herd of buffalo. So one lioness, one male left. And Anna-Marie, you want to know how close the buffalo are? They're about at the first stage, that waterhole. The first one has just reached the waterhole there. They're probably about, I'd say about 150 meters from where we are. So 400 feet or so. That is a massive herd of buffalo. This is wonderful. Wow. I don't think they know the lions are here.
I think they do.
You think they do?
On the right, they're sniffing the air.
Okay.
They're suspicious, at least.
They're definitely suspicious. The cow in front there's a cow in front. You just point to the one in the front there, Andrew, that's sort of about to have a drink. Now, there's a lot of thought about whether the lions smell, what kind of smell they have, and would they induce some kind of a response should the wind blow from behind them into the buffalo. I think that they don't smell very strong. I think they've evolved to not have a very strong and obvious scent. But as Andrew says, the buffalo will be suspicious. And some of them are heading straight down towards this area. And the two lions that are remaining have gone completely flat against the ground. One of them is hiding behind a small grass stand. The other is just kind of pushed herself into the shadows of a tree. And before the rest of them have disappeared into the bush around here. I don't think they'll go far. For them to take buffalo on in that kind of open area would be very unusual. I'm just going to get hold of these guys on the radio. Yeah, affirmative, Craig. You can take standby one. Here we go. This is interesting. You can take standby one. Now you've got them in both. Look at that. Got them both in picture there, the two lions and the herd of buffalo. Now I think they're aware. Look at them watching. They're either looking at us, they could be looking straight at us, or they could be looking at the lions. They won't tolerate the lions in this kind of light. It all favors the buffalo in this kind of light. They can see what's going on. They're coming to investigate. Yeah, they definitely know. Isn't this wonderful? And there's the lead cow. She will be what they call a pathfinder, one of the cows at the front of the herd. That kind of, they move very much in a democracy, do buffalo. But those pathfinders at the front of the herd will make sure that they understand where all the danger is. So they've seen these lions, I'm sure. and they'll want to come and make sure what their intentions are. And if they get close enough, and it's only the two of them, they're here. I can't see any of the others. They get close enough, the buffalo will chase the lions away. Look at this. Isn't it just wonderful? This is incredible. This is a big herd of buffalo, probably about 200, 250 strong. And that little pond of water is obviously not enough water for them. They're going to move towards some other water. This is unbelievable. Look at the two lions now, hunkering down, flattening themselves against the ground as much as possible. Tails flicking. Look at the tail flicking, just like your house cat might if it was about to attack a mouse. Oh, there we go. Gee whiz. Now they'll turn. Now the buffalo are going to turn and regroup. That's typical of two young lions, to make an attack like that, too early, too much in the light. Now the buffalo are going to turn. Here they come. They won't tolerate this. Here the herd comes. Look at the two lions, ears back. This is amazing. Listen, lion's calling. Lion's calling the rest of the pride. Just get out of the way here. Now, what's interesting is I wonder if they aren't trying to lure them into the bush there, where the rest of the pride are. And then, Ashley, you've made a very good point that maybe the other four have gone around to try and scare them towards the other two. I think it's because of the perspective from your screen. They haven't. They've gone off that direction there. The buffalo have come from here. Now, whether these two are trying to lure the buffalo into the bush here, I couldn't tell you. But I think you'll find, because of the light, the more experienced lionesses have moved off into the bush. If an opportunity arises in the thick stuff there, they might go for it. But out here, these 4 lions against a herd of buffalo like this are really going to struggle. What an astonishing thing to have seen so early in the morning in this perfect golden light. I tell you, it gives you a charge like nothing else. I've never had that live before, and it's almost it almost feels completely surreal. So they'll be very, very ill at ease now, the little buffalo. It's a huge herd. Some of them drinking, some of them grazing. These are all these are majority of mature cows in this particular area. And they will be the pathfinders. There are some bulls, and those bulls will make short work of a young lion. And as John says, time for the lions to retreat, and absolutely they have. And if we look through to the other side there, just over there, we can see where those pathfinding cows are standing, staring into the bush where those 2 lions went. And interestingly, they're not going to push through an attack into the thick bush. They can't see where the rest of the pride is. They can't see where those 2 lions that they've seen have gone. And so they'll stop at the fringes like that. They won't want to go herring into the bush after them. because the advantage shifts once they get into the thick bush. And I can hear some squirrels alarm calling to the left of your screen. And as Barb is correctly surmising, they are fairly safe in a herd like this, especially in the middle of the day. Well, I mean, middle of the day is a bit strong, but certainly in the light. In the darkness, it's different. The lions can get around them without them seeing, without them knowing what's going on. But in this kind of light, what will happen is that the buffalo can see precisely where the lions are, and that's why they won't go into the bush after them, where the advantage might turn again towards the lions. Look at them all. And then now the buffalo are standing right where the lions were, so they're only about, the closest one is probably about 10 meters away, 30 or 40 feet. And Laura, you want to know, could we be injured by them? No, not really. I mean, yes, if they came running and charged over the vehicle, we might, but that's highly unlikely to happen. I've certainly been in the middle of many buffalo herds, and they see us sort of like they would, I suppose, a tree. They don't see us as a threat at all, and they would just simply go around us, I think. This is so special. Look at the dust. And another question from Ashley as to whether these buffalo are migrating. Ashley, they're not migrating. They're not a migratory species. They're pretty sedentary. They've got a large home range, but that home range is defined purely by the amount of water that there is. Now, there is water in the Sand River, about 5 or 6 kilometers to the south of us, and there is water in Buffelshoek in a number of different dams. There's a little pond here, so there's no need for them to migrate. They'll just move from water point to water point. That one there, of course, is now a smelling human being, and that's why her nose is turned up towards the sky like that. So actually not migrating, just moving. Now a few of them are moving off into the woodland. Another one from North Carolina. Hello, Boyd. Thank you for your question. How much do lions eat, and how often do they need to eat? Boyd, it depends entirely on what they kill and how many there are, of course. They can eat up to a quarter of their body mass in one sitting. So, I mean, a 400-pound lion can eat up to 100 pounds of meat at one sitting, which is enormous, of course. Now, if they do eat like that, they have a good meal like that, they won't need to eat for 7 days at least. So it just depends on what they kill. If they kill a little steenbok or an impala, then they will need to eat fairly soon after that, because they do process food very fast. But if they've been sitting, the thing is that they're pretty opportunistic. So they've killed, I think about 7 or 8 buffalo in the last week or so. I think it's 6 actually. And they've eaten them all, mostly youngsters. And they wouldn't have needed to eat all of that, but because they don't know when the next meal is going to come, the opportunities that have presented themselves over the last little while might not present for months from now. So they'll eat as much as they can, as often as they can. What is that? Eating a big foxpecker eating a tick. Look at that. That is a massive tick. It's amazing, you know, little pieces of ecology going on all around the immense drama of a lion attack. There's an oxpecker who has made a successful kill in the morning. He's squeezing the blood out of a tick, and you can see, quite interestingly, not eating the tick. Now, oxpeckers eat ticks because of the blood that they suck. That's wonderful. And then E.B. Payne, you want to know, would it not have been more successful for the lions to attack from behind? Yes, it would have. But remember, they weren't actually hunting, they were just lying down here, and the buffalo came down towards them, and so it's a difficult one for them to have done. They basically just took their opportunity, and you saw the older, more mature ones backed off even before the buffalo got here, even before the buffalo became aware of them. And then, Debbie, you want to know if the lions are hiding? To a certain extent, they are, yes. They're getting out of the way. So I think what we're going to do now, we're going to go fringing around the side of the herd here and see if we can't pick up on where the lions might have gone. I suspect that they've probably gone quite deep into the block to the east of where we are now. I don't think they want anything to do with an angry herd of buffalo during the day. At night, like I say, a totally different prospect. But during the day, these buffalo will be okay. And I can hear squirrels' alarm calling off to the side there. You can hear them, Andrew? So perhaps the lions have gone a little bit to the north. Right, let's go round. Cheryl, thank you. You think I'm surrounded? I wasn't quite surrounded. We did have a backward escape route. And Carol, you want to know if I don't think I should move. Well, yes, now to get a better view, but I think we were in the most perfect position there, weren't we, to watch the lions? You had the lion's eye view, see them make that little foray. It was a slightly pathetic attempt, to be honest. And I think they pretty much knew how it was going to end. But that's so often how these attacks occur, where the animals will run, turn, and then face each other again. And if you watch lions having a fight, that's often what happens. One group will charge in, the others will run, turn around, then the attackers will run away, and it's how they gauge their strength. But the buffalo, those pathfinders, once they got into the rest of the herd, they kind of consoled each other, G'd each other up, turned around, and that was that for the lions. A wonderful, perfect way to start the day. Hey Andrew, it's tough working here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough life out here in the bush.
Thank you, Oki, Lynn, Natasha, and many, many more of you who told us that the lions were here via the Juma Dam cam. It is much appreciated. Please keep watching those cameras. It is hugely important to what we do, and we're very grateful for the updates you give us. I'm going to try and gently make my way around the herd without irritating them too much. Marvelous. I wonder where those lions have gone. They'll probably go and find themselves a nice piece of shade to lie in much of the rest of the day. Going to be stinking hot today. I can really feel the heat building on the side of my face. Nancy, you're asking, shouldn't the calves be towards the middle of the herd? Absolutely they should, and they are. To a large extent, that's exactly where the calves are. Now they're taking cover in the thick bush. I think it's quite interesting. I wonder if the lions aren't in. We'll go closer to see if the lions aren't perhaps in there, creating some kind of consternation. Just keep watching the Juma Dam cam, then lions might pop out again. So they're a little bit spooked, the buffalo, now because of the lions this morning. And we'll just feed gently through here. Have a look. So they've gone through the drainage line on both sides of this road. And you're wondering what it smells like a dairy, basically. An enormous dairy farm, mobile dairy farm moving through the bush. That's what buffaloes smell like. Combined with the fresh, crisp air of the morning. Nice question. Nice assertion from, sorry, I didn't get the name, of, just to reiterate and recap, this is the Solala pride that was hunting these buffalo. Solala pride, 3 young males and 3 females, and they were harassing this herd of buffalo last night as well with Brent. And they don't seem to be, I just don't want to get them caught in pincer movement. There's another vehicle up ahead, so I don't want them to feel trapped. I'll just let them go across the road there. It is the same herd of buffalo and the same pride of lions that was harassing them last night with Brent. And they obviously didn't catch one last night. There's a little calf. Right, so while we are repositioning, Jennifer in St. Louis, you want a replay, and it's quite an interesting request, of the attack this morning. Beautiful shot. We'll go across, we can actually do that, believe it or not. We'll show it to you now, and I'll carry on and see if we can't replace and find some lions the other way. See you now. Much as possible. Tails flicking. Look at the tail flicking, just like your house cat might if it was about to attack a mouse. Oh, there we go. Gee whiz. Now they'll turn. Now the buffalo are going to turn and regroup. That's typical of 2 young lions, to make an attack like that, too early, too much in the light. Now the buffalo are going to turn. Here they come. They won't tolerate this. Here the herd comes. Look at the 2 lions, ears back. Hi everyone, wasn't that just amazing? What a way to start the day. So we're just cruising along here next to the herd. I suspect those lions have gone in here somewhere. Aaron, you want to know for how long the buffalo will stay spooked. I think you'll find they'll calm down pretty much immediately. And that's because of the light. They can see what's going on. They know what's going on. Let me just undo my jacket. So you'll have to excuse me every so often. I need to go onto the radio just to bring some of the other rangers into this area, so that they can watch the thorns, everyone. Don't put your hands up. Just going to quickly talk to Craig. Craig, best approach to the herd is on Mvubu Road, as they're now heading in an easterly direction off Mvubu. I suspect the lions have gone down towards the drainage, sort of between the Retailer camp and Mvubu Road. All of these buffalo, now they've settled down to graze. So Aaron, if you're wondering whether how spooked they were going to remain, they're now just starting to graze off towards the east. And I suspect what that means is that the lions have disappeared into the drainage line or dry riverbed just in front of that camp. And I just keep watching that Madame cam. It wouldn't surprise me if they popped out again. Lions, being what lions are enormously lazy, and so they probably won't go very far from where they were. This is the direction in which they headed, but I don't think the buffalo would be quietly grazing their way now through the bush if they could smell the lions in the ground here. Oh, this is wonderful. Look at that. Gorgeous shot. I think Edward is absolutely correct when he says that somewhere right now those lionesses are being, or the young lions are being chewed out by the adults for their pathetic attempt. Ooh, hello. Don't worry. Now, an interesting question from Clay. Why did the buffalo run first before they turned around and gave their cavalry charge? Why didn't they just charge straight away? Clay, I think it's simply a question of panic, and it's precisely how lions kill buffalo. They panic the herd, make them run, and then they can get in there. Once they can get in amongst them, then and Rhea and D. Hodgkins, so excuse me 1 second, I'm just listening to the radio. I'm just listening to the radio, everybody. I will get back to your questions. Right, so you want to know how many buffalo? We think probably about 250 buffalo, possibly even more. I think it's quite a big herd, this. Now, where those lions are, we don't know. Let's follow the buffalo for a little bit longer, and then we might come back down into the drainage line areas and see if we can't pick up on where those lions are. Lions are tremendously exciting when they are actually doing something other than sleeping. They do need to sleep a huge amount. It's not just because they're lazy. I'm being a little bit facetious about it. And so often a better idea, once this heat starts to build, as it is already, to stick with something like the buffalo. They're more likely to provide us with a bit of action. I'm just going to take my jersey off. Thanks, Andrew, for filming that. That was excellent. Just going to give a quick update on the taxon. Actually, you just keep me posted on their movements there. If they cross north, perhaps if they come east or west. Jennifer, you want to know if I've ever eaten buffalo before and what it tastes like. I have had a buffalo steak before. It's it's not entirely unlike chewing on, if you can imagine an old saddle that has been left out in the rain for 3 or 4 years, then hung over a fire and smoked for a while. It's a bit like what buffalo tastes like. I'm being slightly facetious. It's tough. I think that if it's cooked by a true expert, it's probably pretty good. They certainly do make quite a lot of meat, but it does tend to be tough, and what we are not used to. I think that we eat a lot more meat than our human ancestors used to eat, And we tend to think of meat as the kind of meat that we get from the shops. Steaks with huge pieces of fat around them, and lamb chops with fat on them, and that sort of thing. Animals out here don't lay down fat. They're living in a kind of nutritional, not deficit, but they're on a nutritional edge all the time. And so only in really amazingly good times will they actually lay down fat. And so you don't get those kind of fatty cuts of meat of cattle or buffalo or animals that aren't raised in either feedlots, which is a bit of a sad way to raise an animal, or even grain-fed in natural areas. So what you find therefore is that the meat tends to be quite a lot tougher than it might be otherwise. Let's just stop here and observe what's going on. They're just moving off towards the north. Eileen in Boston, you want to know what it feels like to be in amongst these buffalo. It feels like two things, Eileen. It feels, first of all, like an enormous privilege, and second of all, you actually feel like a buffalo. If you can get right in amongst them, you really do feel like you're a buffalo moving with the herd, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And then Sandra, you want to know why they've all got different coloured or different shaped horns. Sandra, it's because they're all genetically very different. It's exactly the same as you and I probably don't look anything alike. It's exactly the same thing with the buffalo. They don't look alike because they're just different individuals, and there would be no real point. I mean, it would be far more astonishing if they did have the same horns, all of them. And that's between the sexes. So then at least that's within the sexes. Obviously the males and females have very different shaped horns, and there is a good reason for that. The males have got a very heavy helmet on top called a boss, and that's for fighting. It helps them to fight. And the females don't have that boss. They've just got the horns coming out of the side of the head. If it gets too thick, I'm not going to continue following them, because if we make a big noise behind them, they're just going to stampede and run away, and that's not great. So Kevin, you ask a very valid and very good question. What are the chances of there being another coalition or pride of lions following this herd? Kevin, good one, and thank you for it. The chances of another pride following them are smallish. I say smallish. Look at these ones here. Let me look at that. Kevin, I say didn't like the smell of that. Andrew and I had a shower this morning. I don't like the smell of soap. Kevin, we're in the middle of the Nkuhuma Pride's territory, and so it's difficult to say. The Nkuhuma Pride could be around here. We're in the middle of their territory, and the Salala Pride is right in the middle of a territory that is simply not theirs, and that they have never marked before. Some more buffalo coming through there. But so the chances of the Nkuhuma Pride coming across this herd of buffalo while the Salalas are in and around them are pretty strong. Also, the Birmingham males are not far south of here, and Brent heard them calling earlier this morning just to the south of the boundary. So it's not impossible that they could come up towards this herd if they were feeling peckish and try and pick one off. So a pretty good chance of other lions being around the area. Good question, Kevin. It's a few clearings off to the eastern side of where we are, and I think we'll get there. Terry in Santa Ana, you want to know how long it will take a lion in lean times before it starts to show nutritional distress. Terry? Don't know exactly, but I would say probably about 2 weeks. You know, if a lion doesn't eat for 2 weeks, they're going to start to really weaken. They'll start to digest their own muscle, and that will be a problem for them, obviously. So I'd say about 2 weeks before. So it's quite a long time that they can go without eating anything. Now remember, a lean time for a lion is completely different from a lean time for a buffalo like this. When there's no water and there's no grazing, the buffalo are in trouble. But for the lions, that's Christmas, because all of their prey animals are weakened. They're easy to catch. There are lots of them. They're dying all over the place. And so for a lion, it's really a good time. So lions love these kind of drought times, and we can see it. I mean, they've killed lots and lots of buffalo over the last 10 days or so. And that's because things are a bit lean for the buffalo. The water is very concentrated. Their movements are entirely predictable. And that's why lots of them are being knocked off. Such fun just sort of getting into the middle of the herd like this. Rhea and Patty, you want to know if they've missed their chance to drink, these buffalo. Watch your head here, Andrew. And will they return to that pan? Rhea, I think that they probably got to that pan thinking that there may have been water in the big dam. I think they gave up on that, and I think they're heading north now into Buffels Hoek, which is the reserve to the north of us, and I think they'll find a much larger body of water to drink. I don't think that they left that pan because of those lions, no, and I don't think they'll go back to it. You can see the bushes closing around us now, and this is pretty normal. This is Combretum woodland, and that's the majority of the kind of vegetation that we find here. And we'll try and just gently follow them through here to the boundary. We may give up before then and then go and see if we can't spot those lions, which will no doubt be sleeping under a bushel. I think this fellow's going to have give himself a scratch. There we go. Just gave herself a little bit of a scratch on the undercarriage there, and has now moved on. An itchy udder, I think. Go ahead, Craig. Just on the radio. Affirmative. Now in the block between Mvubu and Gari, Catline, Mobile North. If you don't want to come through this, it's pretty thick in here. I think if you stand by on the Catline, they'll pop out in about probably 10-15 minutes. I think so, Craig. I really follow them, so I'm not sure, but I suspect that. Craig just wants to know where I think the lions have gone, so he's going to go and have a look around where, in between the lodge and the road. Wonderful bird. And they're getting more and more used to us as we drive slowly through here. attacked by a strychnos tree. So we'll just stop here. The buffalo don't like too much noise from us. We need to be a little bit sensitive to them. I think we tend to be probably fairly insensitive to buffalo normally. You know, elephants, it's obvious when they're in distress, and buffalo, I'm not sure that we treat them with the respect that they're due always. I really enjoy them. Must say, I find them fascinating, and it would be really great one day. I'm sure in the not too distant future we'll be able to look at a herd of buffalo like this from the air. Maybe Drone Commander Andrew will fly his drone over the herd of buffalo, and that will give us real insight into their interactions. That's one of the major things of watching animals from the air, is that you can see how the social interactions go, which you can't from this angle. So, Sandy and Brenda, you're asking about the differences in the way that the buffalo move and who makes them move and where do they move. They're normally led by consensus, basically. There's a group of females called pathfinders at the front, and they tend to decide the direction of the herd. But that is generally done pretty much democratically. There's no matriarch like there is in an elephant herd, and they don't move. The amount that they move depends entirely on the grazing and the water that's available. They have a home range, and the difference between a home range and a territory is that a territory is something that is marked and defined and fought over, so that they'll defend it against animals of the same species. Buffalo don't do that, nor do elephants. They have a home range, which will be a very large area that they move in, that they don't necessarily defend. In fact, they won't defend it at all against other animals. It just happens to be where they live. At a time like this, they're moving from water point to water point and eating what they can in between. Remember, we have had a little bit of rain. It looks very green around here, but it's the trees that are giving the greenery. The grass is still very grey and brown. There's the odd shoot that comes from the 40 or so millimeters of rain that we've had during the course of the year, but we haven't had proper rain yet, and so the grass has not sprouted. There's been an initial flush of green, but it's gone brown again quite quickly, and until it becomes sorry. Did you hear that?
Sounds like a buffalo dying.
Distress calling. And a long way from here. Okay, what we're going to do, I'm not going to follow these buffalo through here. I'm going to let them, I think we've had a good sighting of them. What we'll do is we'll head south to where I heard that sound. It may well just be a cow or a calf looking for the rest of the herd. Let's go that way. I don't think it's a distress call, but it could be. So just quickly to finish that discussion, they'll move purely according to the water and according to the grazing. This time of year, when the grazing's a bit rough, they need to kind of move as much as they can, but within the bounds of where the water is. Right, let's head straight to the south of us here. And while the predators follow the buffalo herd, D. Hodgkins in Maine, a very nice question, thank you for it. You want to know, do the dung beetles follow them in great swarms? No, they don't, D. I'm not sure that's a serious question. But they do. The dung beetles will come out more when the rains have come properly, and they're amazing. They home in on any piece of dung that there is around the place. They really are excellent at finding dung, but they don't follow the animals that make the dung. They have such a short life cycle that they don't need to follow animals to get the dung. There's so much dung around the place. It's very interesting how they find that dung, you know. They've got it's sort of parasitoids, these mites that live on them. And they find the dung by these mites are kind of navigators, and they discovered this through an experiment that was done in Australia. Obviously, you've all seen those stereotypical shots of Australians with corks around their hats. And the reason they have those... Whoa! Sorry about that, Andrew. I nearly took us out there. And we've picked up a passenger. You're right.
Yep, all good.
Watch your heads, everyone. There's the little buffalo there. Look, tiny little calf. Little calf. Very sick. Not well. Look at that. Oh, shame. It's not nice to see. It's not well. You see it's very skinny. Very skinny. I wonder if its mother hasn't died. You see its tail's gone, probably bitten off by some lions. There you see. I believe somebody spotted this calf during the hunt. These lions come across this calf now, and it'll want to be very careful about making distress calls. Let me just reverse slightly so that Andrew can get it. Is that all right? Let me go forward and turn around. I'm being lazy. So that's the calf that was making that distress call, and it'll want to be very, very careful of doing that. With the lions around here, because if the lions hear it making that distress call, or even hyenas, they'll rush in here. Just keeping a careful eye out. Just want to have a quick look at its tail and see whether that's a fresh wound. It doesn't look like a fresh wound to me. Maybe it happened last night. Watch your head again, Andrew. Sorry about that. Oh, this is heartrending. Oh, I can't hear the rest of the herd. This is not easy to see, I must say. And it's one of the great sort of, not sadnesses, I suppose, but one of the difficulties of life out here is that herds of animals, except for elephants maybe and wild dogs, they can't afford to stop and look after stragglers like this, because it does have a huge effect on the rest of the herd. And so this little chap, I'm afraid, is probably going to be consigned to death on his own. The rest of the herd is further north of us. And Ashley, you want to know why, if it's lost its mother, another cow wouldn't take it in? I don't know. It's just not a big thing with buffalo. They don't seem to cross-suckle. Some animals do, certainly in an elephant herd. If a cow dies, if there's another lactating female in the herd, she will adopt it. But it doesn't happen with buffalo. So I can hear the rest of the herd quite a long way to the north. I mean, that little fellow's heading in the right direction, but who knows how distressed he is or what he's feeling like. Maybe he's feeling very sick. It's interesting, all around here life continues, of course. The birds are singing, the flowers continue to leap out of the ground. Yeah, but for this little buffalo, I'm afraid, things have come to an end. I think we're going to leave him. I'm feeling a little bit sad. One does really wish one could do something about these slightly distressing situations, but we try to interfere as little as possible. All right, let's go see if we can find the lions. Maybe you'll find the herd again, you're right. Jennifer and St. Louis, you want to know how old he is. He's a year old. No, he's much less than a year old. Horns have come out, so at least 6 months old. There he goes. Maybe he'll be lucky. And some of you are saying, couldn't I lead or herd the calf back towards the herd? I might be able to chase him towards the herd, I suppose. But he's been left behind not because he's lost. He's been left behind because he's sick. You can see his hips are showing. He's been injured. He's probably infected. And like I say, we try to interfere as little as possible. And I think his best chance of finding the herd is not to have us making a noise behind him in the vehicle. I have to confess, I've tried to do something similar like to that before, and it did end in a fairly tragic situation, which I'm not going to share with you. When we get involved out here, I find that 9 times out of 10 it ends in a way that we just didn't expect it to, and it's normally not very good for the animals. So I think the less effect we have there, the less noise we make around the animal and the rest of the herd, the more chance he will have of being found by the rest. So we're going to leave him be, and hopefully he will find the rest of his herd. I suppose the one mercy of being, if the lions do come across him, is that it will be a very fast end. Right, on that sad and somber note, let's go across to a almost universally cheerful human being. Brent Leo Smith is on foot and he's with a herd of elephants, which I think is rather exciting. So let's go across to him. I'm going to continue looking for the lions and I'll see you a bit later.
Isn't this absolutely incredible? Brian and I are on foot in the African bush, live to you wherever you might be in the world. And we're sitting watching this huge breeding herd of elephants from a really nice safe distance move away. We're going to move a little bit forward in a second because they are heading towards our southern boundary. And there's a water hole across the boundary. I think that's where they're all off to. But we were walking probably about half a kilometer from here and we just heard branches breaking and stuff. So we snuck into the area and we couldn't have timed it better. Let's just try and get another view of them. As we came out onto the eastern boundary and these ellies are just moving through this beautiful open area. And no idea we're here. Going off to have a morning drink. So the ellies are just disappearing, and what a fantastic way to start the morning's walking safari. Yeah, them trumpeting at each other in the distance. Some havoc being caused by the young bulls. So what Brian and I originally did is we came up to the eastern boundary. We heard rumors that Mvula, a big male leopard, was just to the east of us, and we were hoping to find his tracks crossing into Djuma. Unfortunately, no tracks yet. So we're going to keep walking on and seeing what else we can find as those ellies disappear. Oh, there's a nice bull at the back there about to disappear. I do love elephants. So we're going to continue on foot, see what else we can find, keep checking for those male leopard tracks, and we'll send you back to James, and hopefully we'll be back with some good news shortly.
Hello everyone, nice to see Brent, I'm sure, and the elephants, possibly even more than seeing Brent. We are going down towards the waterhole here at Galago. Now, let me just give you a lay of the land. To the left-hand side of your screen, or where I'm pointing, is the Djuma Dam, where the camera is. And there's a drainage line or riverbed that runs in front of the lodge, just sort of where I'm indicating there. And over there, where I'm pointing, is another little kind of pumped pond, like this, just the same as the one that there is with the Djuma Dam. And I think the lions came into this area. They did come towards the road where the buffalo went, but they either would have come through here. I don't think they would have followed the exact line that the buffalo have gone. They've either come through here, or perhaps they've turned slightly to the south. So we're going to check through here first, and then we'll go around and see to the south if they haven't popped out somewhere there. The difficulty now, of course, is that they disappeared, and the buffalo did walk over the tracks of where the lions have been. And Gloria, you want to know, it's a good question. We just, before I left, we had that rather distressing sight of that sick and dying buffalo. And you said, do I think it had bovine TB? Gloria, I think it's a very strong possibility. Now, for those of you who don't know, sorry, I thought I saw a lion, but this isn't a lion. For for those of you who don't know, bovine TB is a tuberculosis, which is very similar to the human version of the disease. We can't get it from them. And it doesn't tend to affect buffalo hugely, except when they're in nutritional distress. So much like TB in human beings, we apparently all carry the disease, or most of us carry the disease, but it never expresses, because if you've got enough food to eat and you take your vitamins, it doesn't generally express. But as soon as you have a compromised immune system, which could come from a deficient nutrition, then you can easily start to express the symptoms. And a young buffalo, perhaps its mother has died, and it has been trying to sort of live off this, trying to eat grass and not getting enough milk to drink. It's well possible that then the TB will start to express. Tammy in Seattle, thank you for your question, and it's a good one. You say you saw that calf, or you think you saw that calf during the chase, and why would they have got separated? I think you'll find that when that herd actually ran, it moved quite quickly into the bush there, and I'm sure all it is that calf is very weak and unable to keep up with a pace that isn't more than a gentle grazing pace. You probably find that the calf was on its own for small periods last night as the herd moved away, and it was just lucky not to be found by the lions. It may have even been found by the lions and had its tail ripped off, but I think that injury doesn't look new to me. It looks like quite an old one. Here. Just looking to see if there aren't any tracks of lion. That is a lion track, but I don't think it's a new one. Here is Craig, who's also looking for the lions. There's some giraffe there. We're going to look at the giraffe. Hello, Craig.
Good morning.
Sorry about that.
No, it is what it is.
It's possible also that they went, maybe crossed Mvubu underneath the buffalo tracks and then headed to the south. So I'll go towards Gary Kaplan maybe. So I'm afraid we didn't follow them.
Gorillas coming north from Little Dari, eastern bank of
Miwati. Okay, cool.
Take it slow, we'll drive that side.
All right. Good luck. Bye-bye. So that's Craig from Cheetah Plains, which is a lodge just to the south of us, and you may have heard there reports of Karula, magnificent female leopard, coming north towards Djuma, which is excellent news. Right, there's some giraffe here. Let's have a quick look at them. I think these lions have probably gone into the thick stuff here, and unless you've got a very large bulldozer, you're not going to get in there without doing some serious damage to the vehicle. I've followed lions into this area before. I think I put a small hole in Wendy's bodywork. Look at the wonderful giraffe. Lisa, an interesting question. Thank you. You want to know, and it's an important one, very important. You want to know, is it possible, or you notice that most of our viewers are from Canada and the US and Australia. Is it available in Russia and Asia? Absolutely, Lisa. It's available everywhere. It's only The only thing that stops anyone watching it is the lack of a decent internet connection. So you can watch this absolutely anywhere in the world. Look at this is wonderful. It's so rare to see giraffe drinking. I hope this bull's going to spread his legs and dip down and show us how giraffe drink. It's a wonderful thing to see. So Lisa, anywhere in the world, why if you click into Wild Safari Live with a decent internet connection, you can watch it anywhere. I'm not sure if the North Koreans allow this sort of thing to be watched on the internet, but you know, in the absence of a psychotic regime at the helm of your government, you should be able to watch this anywhere in the world. Look at this, isn't this wonderful? Wow! Yeah, that's wonderful. Gee, that's wonderful. Now watch when he lifts his head. Watch what happens. He just did precisely what I thought he wouldn't do. Normally what they do is they flick their heads back because of the pressure build-up of blood in the brain. But he probably might be just looking to see. He maybe was alarmed by something. Very, very vulnerable when they drink like that, giraffe. You've seen how long it took him to get down into that position. And obviously if you were a lion and you had some intelligence, easy to jump on the back end of a giraffe that's like that. And once a giraffe falls over, once you can trip them if you're a lion or make them lie down, it's very difficult for them to stand up again. There's some alarm calling going on there. Can you hear that, Andrew?
Yeah.
And the other two giraffes are now looking in that direction. That's where the lions are. We'll just... there. There's some impala alarm calling. In the middle of that kind of thick stuff there. Just keep your eyes on the Djuma Dam cam, everyone. Those lions might pop out there. We'll take a drive around there just now. I wonder if they won't come for a drink there. Let's sit here for a little bit longer, enjoy the giraffe and see if the lions don't pop out here. The heat is starting to build, so I suspect what they're going to do is just find themselves some shade. Very slow and ponderous affair is this giraffe drinking. Oh, looked up. So we often talk about alarm calls, and a giraffe doesn't make much of an alarm call, but impala make a sort of snorting sound when they see a predator, and that's what Andrew and I can hear, and certainly what that giraffe can hear. And you can see he's thirsty, but he'll be reticent about getting himself into that very vulnerable position. Marvelous. Jennifer, you are obviously a regular watcher, which is marvelous. Thank you for being a regular watcher, for giving us of your time and intellectual capacity, for sending us a question. Do you think, you want to know if I think these are the same giraffe we had yesterday? I don't see those little ones anywhere, so I'm not really sure. Andrew, what do you think?
I was on bushwalk yesterday, so...
Yes, with me. I think that's what Jennifer's referring to.
No,
yes.
it's not the same.
Yes, not the same.
Yeah.
No, I tend to agree with Andrew, now that he's remembered that he was in fact with me yesterday watching some giraffe. It's nice to be remembered, really. Jennifer, there were some very young calves with the other group, and so I don't think this is the same group. Andrew, I'm obviously deeply insulted now that you find me so completely forgettable.
I forgot we were on foot. It's like a totally different thing.
No. The damage is done. I'm hurt now.
Sorry, Jamie.
It's okay. We'll get over it in a week. Right, the giraffe have melted into the bush. Let's go around and see if we can't find what those impala were alarming at. Like I say, it is very, very thick. The bush is very, very thick in there. And so, yeah, we'll just have a sort of cursory glance about the place and then move on. It's going to be hot today. Marvellous to see a giraffe drink like that. It really is not a common occurrence at all to see it. Like I say, they are extremely vulnerable when they do drink, and they don't have to drink all the time, especially this time of year when there's lots and lots of different greenery for them to eat, and that greenery contains a lot of moisture, and so they're very efficient at drawing the moisture from their food, and so they don't always have to drink. And of course, being vulnerable at the waterhole, especially so close to lions, begs the question as to how often, firstly, lions kill giraffe, and secondly, as Virginia has pointed out, how giraffe are able to defend themselves against lions. And they do it with kicking and stamping, and it's amazing to see. You'll definitely find some footage on the interweb if you look for it. They stamp and they kick. So they kick out like horses with their back feet, and with their front feet they stamp. And it's amazing to watch. They're very effective defense against lions, and there are many lions around the place who have been ended, had their lives cut short by taking on giraffe. Going to look through here. So I've got 7 radios going in my ear at the moment. A question from Rena. Rena, I didn't actually hear your question. I'm just going to ask Louise to quickly read it through to me again, and then I will get back to you. But there is a chance that Karula is coming this way. Rena, your question, I'm going to assume is not necessarily serious. You want to know if a giraffe drank coffee, would it be cold by the time it hit the stomach? No, I don't think it would, you know. I mean, if you take a cup of coffee and you pour it from a height of 2 meters, it's still hot by the time it hits the ground. So it's the same thing, really. A giraffe's neck, 2 meters long, and yeah, probably quite insulated in there. It might burn its throat and wouldn't be very happy with that. But I'll try and find a giraffe who's prepared to try it. difficult to know what to do with this. I'm just going to get an update because I think Karula the leopard is on her way here. Marvelous. Go ahead. Okay, copy, thanks. Yeah, we're going to leave this area. We already had early. Okay, stand by. I'll make my way there. Just keep me posted. I'm going to have a quick drive in here. There are some impala in there. Karula is coming towards the boundary. She's not here with us yet. So we're not far to the north of where she's coming. So we can nip down there. I think what we'll do is just quickly drive through here. There are some impala in here, and I suspect that the lions are not far away. So at the risk of not seeing the lions or Karula, let's have a quick turn through here and just see if we can't spot those lions. Hello, Richard. You say you've just come across the stream, and very nice compliment. Thank you for saying that the rangers are giving good commentary. Thank you, Richard. I hope that you will join us for many, many days. Tell all your friends, family, and perhaps anyone you find on the street about us, and carry on talking to us. It's very good to have you along. Thank you. So here the impala, I think they were the ones that were alarm calling. It was around here that they were shouting. Now, they won't be particularly terrified of lions that are fast asleep. And like I say, keep watching the Djuma Dam cam, because I think what you'll find is that the lions may come to have a drink sometime during the course of the day. So we're just going to do a quick turn through here, and then we'll head to where Karula, the Queen of Djuma, 11-year-old female leopard. What have you got there? All alarm calling. Where are they looking, Andrew? Can you see? Quick. Yes, I can see. They're looking down into the drainage line there towards that big blackberry tree there. Let's go through there. Yeah, here we go. Now we're talking. Of course, there's a lot in the way of trees here. So there's a tall tree there, tallest tree that we can see over there, which Andrew's pointing at now. That is around about where those impala are looking, down towards the riverbed. Can we get there, of course, without destroying the vehicle, is the other question. One of them's looking the other way. Here, do a quick loop around. There's so much bush. The elephants have made such a mess here. They've pushed all the trees over and blocked all the roots. A wall of solid knobthorn trees. I'm in two minds as to what to do. Let me just get an update from Brent. Brent, what is the position there now? Okay, copy. Okay, I'm going to make the call. I think we're going to leave here. The leopard is quite a long way to the east of here. I think those lions are probably just going to be sleeping now. They may wander around for a little bit, but to see a moving leopard or any leopard at all is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. We did see the lions earlier, so we're going to make the call to leave the lions and go and see if we can't get into that sighting. Okay, here we go. Stand by, hold on, lift your drinks, remove your dentures. I'm going to make my way there. Copy, thank you. Sorry everybody, I had to get on the game drive. Brent is trying to stay with her, and he is in, well, he's not in quite as nimble a vehicle as we've got here, so we're going to drive quite quickly to get there. But we can chat as we go, and we'll try and get a couple of questions through. Fascinating question, actually. I don't know how many of you have been with us since the beginning, but we saw those two sub-adult lions today, or one of them, and they're about, I think they're about 2 years old, a little bit older, maybe 2.5. We saw the males there, one of the males mounting another one. And Lisa G, you want to know if the females do the same sort of thing, because your dog does the same sort of thing. Lisa, I have actually seen females doing it. I have seen females doing it. So it's well possible. And again, we do kind of sort of describe it, the behavior as a dominance display, without actually really understanding what it's about. So whether it is truly a dominance display or whether it's just a kind of a flush of testosterone that makes animals behave in a kind of masculine fashion, I don't know. I find it very interesting, but in general, the discussion is that it's probably some kind of dominance display rather than anything else. Brent, what is best approach to the stage? Brent is trying to stay with her. She's on our, really right on our southern boundary. She came north and now she's turned back south again, but she's still on Djuma, which is great. And just to reiterate to some of you wondering why I'm waffling on about different, about boundaries and that sort of thing, we are operating on 900 hectares that is unbounded by fences, but of course is very much bounded by human property laws. Oh, marvelous! Brent has actually got a view of her, and he's in the vehicle, and he can probably go live. So let's cross to Brent. You're going to lose us here anyway, and we'll get in there as soon as we can. Enjoy. I'm on my way.
Guys, I forgot to turn my microphone on, but you should be hearing me now. And we are with Karula. We're not on foot, so while we're moving to a better walking area for signal, and we've bumped into Karula, and it looks like she's moving up and down the drainage line. Isn't this exciting? The Queen of Djuma. So she's moved from where she was mating with Tingana into this area. So we thought we would definitely show you while James tries to get here with a proper filming vehicle. Brian is being a human tripod at the moment. This setup's not really designed for filming from a car. I'm just going to try go a little bit forward so we can get a better view of her. Here we
Brent, is she still mobile?
Sorry guys, so you're going to have to listen to me on the game drive as well because I don't have earphones for the handheld. Stand.
There's a few that are just north of Gary Main, sort of between where you and I are at the moment.
Spotted those in Nyala we saw a little bit earlier, and so Craig is waiting on that side, and she's probably just planning her approach now, and we all know what a fantastic hunter Karula is. Love catching up with this leopard. We don't see her as often as we would like these days, so it is always great to exciting stuff. Oh, look at her, she just moved her head. Definitely saw the movement of those Nyala. So, it looks like she might be planning to duck off to try to get into a better position for these Nyala. You can almost see she almost jigged to the right. And for her sake, I hope there's not too many squirrels or Franklin to give away her position between here and the Nyala. I wish I could see where they were, but the bush in front of us is really thick. You can almost see how shiny her nose is there. Can you hear the Cape turtle doves? Crested Franklin calling, and let's hope those Nyala are moving towards where we are with Karula. Oh, just see that interest. Oh, look at that, she's off on the stalk. James is calling me. James, keep coming till you see Craig, and then I will guide you in closer. Firm on Gary Main, past that sort of second drainage after the Mawati. James is nearly here, and in that little Land Rover he's able to move far better to be able to see these things. I've just lost visual, Craig. She's ducked into the drainage line. She's definitely seen those Nyala. She should be moving back onto the southern bank of this drainage line very shortly. I'm going to try and move it a little bit forward and see if I can still see her.
wonderful shot here. I'm afraid of Karula going herring across the boundary. Go for it, Craig. We can't go.
I can't go either.
Okay. What a dreadful pity. Oh well, at least you got a sighting with her and Brent. She just came herring out of the bush
You don't have rights
and
to the
ran
property,
south
no.
there, I'm afraid. So that's that, I'm afraid.
No, leopard. Leopard. Yeah, barking.
Those lions are definitely in that drainage line. There was some impala in there shouting now. I left when we came along here, yeah.
No.
All right. All right, I'm going to go back there and see if we can't find it.
All right.
All righty. Bad luck.
We saw it.
We saw it. Does count. All right, we'll stop here. We'll just have a gathering of our thoughts. So that was Karula, everybody. A very quick sighting that we had, but at least you had a nice one with Brent. And I'm so glad that he managed to get a signal to you from the Mahindra, which is a much larger vehicle, of course, than these little nimble Land Rovers that the rest of us drive. Thank you, Brent.
Thanks, Brent.
I'm just going to tell him on the radio what she's done. Brent, she has run across the boundary. I don't think we're going to see her again. I think it might be worth just standing here for a little while and see if she doesn't pop across. She was obviously chasing that little nyala. There was a little nyala that came rushing across the road, a little calf, and I think she was obviously after the calf. It's not often, you know, that we see leopard running like that. And our new viewer, Richard, I think what we're going to do now is turn around and probably go back towards where we think those lions are. I'm laughing because I can see Brent through there. You're not going to see him because, as Andrew is showing you, the trees in there are pretty thick. And I can just imagine the enthusiasm on Brent Smith's face as he tries to maneuver a fairly substantial vehicle through a very difficult area. Anyway, it'd actually be worth sitting right there and enjoying the sighting. Richard, you want to know what is the point of this series? You want to know what the point of this is other than just showing the amazing wildlife? Well, Richard, I think there are a number of different points to it. Brent, do not have a wee, we are watching you. Right, okay, fair enough. I just thought maybe you were going to have a tinkle, which would have been a little embarrassing. Right, Brent is now stuck in the drainage line, and he is going to have to build himself a log bridge. Yeah, so he's preventing himself from being stuck. Hasn't actually got himself stuck. This is high entertainment, of course. So we'll sit here while I explain to Richard what the point of this is. So, Richard, the point of it is to bring the wonders of African wildlife to the rest of the world. It plays a hugely important conservation role, we feel, in much the same way that many wildlife documentaries do. What they do is because they inspire people with pictures of the wilderness and the kind of feelings and ideas of wilderness, we're hoping that it will make a meaningful contribution towards people's understanding of wilderness and therefore their desire to help conserve it. So that's one of the major goals. And the other major goal, of course, is entertainment. It's live, it's genuine, and it's authentic. As you can see, this is totally unedited and unfettered. And I think in a world of completely lacking in authenticity in so many respects, a show like this, and there's nothing more authentic than watching Brent Leo Smith trying to build himself a long bridge. I think that it really is and I mean this completely unfacetiously. What you're seeing now, that's not set up. This is not a reality show that's been set up in some way. Brent is genuinely trying to get that car across the drainage line, and he will eventually do it. He may be late for breakfast, but that's okay. This is authentic, real, glorious African wilderness at its best. And that's the real point of it, Richard, that it will inspire the world like it has inspired us. And our founder, a chap called Graham Wallington, who's been hammering away at live safaris for the last 17 years, and only now are we starting to be able to bring you this kind of live, high-definition action that we are able to. So welcome to it, and I hope you'll stay with us. Whether Brent will be with us for too much longer is difficult to say. Here he goes. He's actually going to drive across it. Here we go. I think we'd give him a big hand if he gets across. Don't make a mess, Brent. You are live.
There we go. No pressure.
And there, on cue, the African fish eagle calls. That's not a soundtrack, everyone. Oh dear, this doesn't look good. Hey! Here he comes. This is marvelous entertainment. Right, after this we'll go and see if we can't find those lions, which I'm sure are lurking in the bottom of that drainage line. I'm most impressed. You can see not quite as nimble as the little Land Rover. Brent, of course, is not much as nimble as me either, because he's much larger, which he will tell you on any available occasion. Well done. Good job.
Thanks, Simon.
Well done. That was, well done. Most impressive to watch, and I'm glad that our viewers got to watch it. We've just had a question from Richard, who's a new viewer. That's Brian, everyone. Richard is a new viewer, and he was just asking, other than bringing us the wonders of African wildlife, what is the point of WildEarth? And, well, I said authenticity, and there we go.
I could always get a job as a bridge builder. Well, I think it won't take up the first
I think
grade.
civil engineering is possibly not your forte. You're very good at tracking animals, but yeah, civil engineering possibly not. So she went running across the road here. We got a brief glimpse.
Is she chasing?
There was a small Nyala calf that went across before her, but I mean a long way before her. But I think she's definitely on the hunt for the little one. Those lions, I think, are in that drainage line. There were some impala alarm calling there just before we came. So we're going to go back across there and see if we can't spot them in there.
Oh, very good. Well, if you need some trackers, just give us a call.
Awesome bridge builders indeed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to head up towards quarantine. We're struggling with the signal a little bit today in this area. Luckily so.
Yes.
So we're moving through to a better signal area, and we bump Karula on the road.
Good. Okay.
We'll see you later.
We'll see you just now. Bye-bye.
Bye, Andrew. Bye.
Okay. A fascinating sequence. Well, maybe it wasn't for you, but it certainly was for me. In case you're wondering why that vehicle and why that funny kind of aerial sticking out of it and why Brian's in front, Richard and perhaps any other new viewers, how we normally do it is sometimes there's a walk and sometimes there are two drives. In fact, normally we have two drives going out and often a walk with that. We're running on a skeleton crew at the moment, and one of the vehicles is down. And so we've only got Wendy, which is this vehicle that we're on now, and then the bushwalking vehicle. And so what happens is that Brian will put that pack on his back with the aerial sticking out of it, and they can go off and take some amazingly lovely angles of different plants and trees, and sometimes animals as well, on foot. Normally Brent would be on another vehicle like this, and that's how we operate most of the time. Okay, we're going to head back towards where we heard the Impala alarm calling. I'm pretty sure those lines are in there. I have, of course, been confounded by them on many occasions, but I'm 80% confident that we're going to find them lying under a bush. And as we were driving here at high speed, the heat that was building this morning seems to have kind of dissipated, and there's a slightly chilly breeze blowing through the air at the moment, and the clouds, those high wispy, I think they're called not alto stratus, they're called alto Sirius, I think. And what that means is that there's quite a lot of ice and cold up top there. So there's a lot of ice up there. Often a harbinger of a bit of a cold weather system coming through. Now, cold weather, of course, for us, is nothing cold weather for most of our viewers in the Northern Hemisphere, or the more similar to cold weather for those in Hawaii or Australia. We mean slightly chilly, we don't mean freezing cold. I'm going to avoid going up here where Brent's gone because our signal can be a bit dodgy there, so we'll head straight up towards the middle of the reserve and then head north. Keep watching the dam cam. I've got a feeling that those are going to pop out in front there. Say that this drive has been you've been for a while, morning and afternoon, and this is your most entertaining drive so far. I'm very glad indeed. Sorry, you lost us briefly there. Tammy, thank you for your compliment that this has been your most entertaining drive yet, and that you watch us every afternoon and evening. And of course, we're most grateful for the fact that you give us our time, your time. Thank you very much for that. And remember, people, if you do enjoy us, please tell your friends about it, and we'll attempt to entertain them as we attempt to entertain you. You commenting on the hilarious nature of our presentation of Brent's bridge building skills. Thank you for that. And Shannon, you say it sounded like the fish eagle was laughing at him too. I think it probably was. I remain very impressed, however, that he built himself a bridge, got across it and came out. I think I would have just turned around and tried to find another way around. Most impressive that he hauled around 7 tons of logs into that ditch and then managed to cross on the craft. He is something of a character, our Brent here, Smith. So it is a rather delightful morning, and I'm pleased to say that it hasn't turned into the volcanic heat that I thought it would earlier on. It can get extremely warm out here, and especially this time of the year before the rains come. It gets extremely hot and very dry. I guess the dryness isn't too bad, but it just doesn't feel as nice as when there's a storm building in the west. Those are the best afternoons, where it's very hot, but the air is heavy, and see the storms coming in over the mountains. This gives me the most profoundly wonderful sense. you are to use it at your next barbecue as kindling. Actually, they are not hermaphrodites. It was at one stage, possibly around the Dark Ages, there were thoughts that they could be hermaphrodites. But the confusion and why it has arisen is very interesting. Females have got false male genitalia. That's only in the spotted hyena, not in the brown or striped hyena, only in the spotted. And the females have got a very enlarged clitoris that is in fact larger than the male's penis. And because of that, it's used mainly in greeting rituals, and so they look like males. And they've also got a false scrotum, which hides the vulva, and they really do look like they've got male genitalia, and combined with the fact that they are larger than the males, I think that gave rise to the thought that they were perhaps hermaphrodites. They're not at all. A hermaphrodite, for those of you who don't know, is an animal or creature with both male and female genitalia, working genitalia, and that is not the case with hyenas. So it is very confusing to watch, and it's actually very difficult to sex hyenas because of it, unless they're pregnant and lactating, or unless you see the males next to the females, because the females are so substantially bigger than the males. Good one. Thank you, Ashley. It's always an interesting topic, that. And the question as to why they've evolved like that, we don't know. Another really interesting one. Thank you, Judy. And I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to answer, and then I'll put my 2 cents worth in. Andrew? So Judy wants to know, basically, do the cameramen ever feel like they're not watching, like they're missing out on things by staring straight through the lens only? Andrew, what do you think?
All the time. It's like I'm watching a small little miniature screen.
Yeah.
So people at home probably have a better view than I do.
Yeah. So, and that's absolutely true of a lot of people who even come on safari. They spend enormous amounts of money. They come out here and they bring 7 cameras worth the same as their house, and they spend the days staring through a tiny little viewfinder like that, and they never experience the kind of all-around wonder that is a wilderness area like this. So, and I'm sure that's pretty much what Andrew's doing all day. At least he does get to spend a bit of time looking when we're not on air. But he's so focused in on that viewfinder, trying to find the best shots and focusing and fixing the light. It's not an easy job. There's nothing automatic about the camera he's using. It's all manually done. So it's a very highly skilled operation, and he's got to be in that viewfinder all the time, making sure that the picture looks good. So, yeah. If you ever come on safari, Judy, or anyone else, there's a buffalo, an old bull, not part of the herd. We're quite a long way from where the herd was. And these are just old bulls living alone, a life of blissful bachelorhood. Well, I don't know how blissful it is, but it's absolutely bachelor. I'll just stop quickly here before we press on to the lions. There, look at the bird. That's a beautiful fork-tailed drongo, just following that old bull and picking up the insects that he kicks out of the earth. Marvelous. So just a final word on Judy's question. If you ever do come out here, Judy, and this goes for anybody who comes out here, sure, bring a camera, but don't spend your entire safari staring through the lens. Remember, you will get a couple of very nice snaps, but there are hundreds of people taking hundreds of wildlife photographs around the world. And so your snaps, I always think, your holiday snaps, unless you're a professional, should should be great memories rather than trying to take a world award-winning leopard photograph, because when you get into that space, you stop at seeing anything else around you and hearing the birds and smelling the smells and touching the bark of the trees and tasting some of the leaves. You can get very involved in the camera lens. Right, we are now approaching quarantine clearings. Brent has somehow ended up behind us in his Mahindra, and he will stop around here and head off on foot. We'll go and see if we can find the lions. Very nice and close to home. Thank you, Barbara, in Potchefstroom. Potchefstroom, everyone, is to the southwest of Johannesburg, I think. Southwest of Johannesburg. Barbara, my geography is failing me. I'm sorry about that. But Barbara, welcome and thank you for your question. You want to know about brown hyenas and their social structure in relation to spotted hyenas. Totally different. They don't live in a clan at all. They live pretty much solitary lives. They come together to mate and then they go off on their own. And they would definitely not be seen with spotted hyenas. Spotted hyenas would see brown hyenas as much as much competition as they would, say, lions. So they would completely. A brown hyena would avoid a spotted hyena. They're smaller, first of all, and secondly, a spotted hyena would react with probably quite a lot of aggression towards a brown hyena, so they will avoid them. Let's have a quick stop here. And look, this is where the buffalo spent the night. This is quarantine clearings, and you can see the little mounds of dung all over the place. This is where they slept. That is a crucial part of the ecology out here. Buffalo dung is one of the best natural fertilizers there is. And we have reduced numbers of buffalo in various areas of the Kruger Park for various reasons, and that has resulted in a lack of this natural fertilization. And the other thing that it does to have huge herds of buffalo walking through a clearing like this is that they break the surface of the soil, and that's good because they then allow the seeds to go, the grass seeds to go under the soil, be mixed in with the soil, and the next time there's rain on top of this very fertile area, so the grass seeds will sprout from the ground. They play a crucial ecological role. Very nice, thank you. I'm sure Brent will probably be walking around here. He might take you and show you one of those fresh patties. Actually quite interesting. There'll probably be various insects and bits and pieces feeding on them already. Right, we are now approaching. This is the path that the buffalo walked down. Merrick, back onto the hyenas. You want to know what happens to a matriarch when she gets cast out of a spotted hyena clan, or does she get cast out when she gets old? Merrick, no. She will probably die as the leader. She will unlikely die of old age. Most animals out here die fairly violent deaths, and that's because she will probably, not to her own clan, but they live quite vicious lives, hyenas. They do scavenge a lot, they have to fight off other animals, and it's most likely that she'd be eventually taken out by a lion or a rival group of hyenas. Not of her own clan, though, I don't think. They'd be more likely to die of some kind of attack, and that they just became too weak to defend. Now, what we're going to do, this is the pond that I was talking about earlier, that the buffalo took a very cursory drink at, and the lions were. Andrew's just going to show you where the lions were sitting. That's where they were sitting, in that shade basically there, Just behind that tree was where the lioness launched from, and just to the left of it there where the small sub-adult male launched his attack from. And the buffalo came running back up the bank. You probably can't see the elevation that we're at now. We're a little bit higher than sort of that area. We're going down a hill towards the drainage line there, and they launched the attack. The buffalo ran back up here and then turned around and pressed home their advantage, and they headed off down into the woodland, turned slightly to the north, and they've gone off towards a place called Buffelshoek, which is the property to the north of us. So we'll just sneak down, drive along the drainage line, and see if we can't pick them up. The lions, I mean, not the beef. Bump. And also quite close to home, or the other end of the country, Bob in Cape Town. What happens to the old lady buffalo? Bob, well, likewise, you know, not much dies of old age out here. Elephants sometimes, but an old lady buff will most likely, I don't know if you were watching earlier, but there was that calf that was you know, sort of lurking on the fringes of the herd, and eventually an old buffalo cow will start to lag behind the herd because she can't keep up, and then she's going to get nailed eventually by lions, probably. Right, so we're going to look in here. I think this is round about where the lions are. Ease our way through here and look in the shade, in the deep shade. We're sheltered from any breeze here, so it's a bit warmer. All right. Brent Leo Smith is on foot in amongst the patties of buffalo dung, so let's head across to him and see what he can show you there.
Welcome back, everyone. Since it's been such an exciting morning, the Tsalalas chasing buffalo, buffalo chasing Tsalalas, and Karula, we decided to come onto quarantine where our signal's a bit stronger. We're having a bit of a problem with the backpack signal at the moment, but we are working on it, and we're going to go have a look where these buffalo spent the night. And quite interesting, when I left from my house, which is behind that big tree over there, to the camp where everyone else stays this morning, all the buffalo were corralled together, and they were lying in such a tight circle. It looked like there were less than 100 of them, but as soon as they got up and started moving, we could see how many there were. And those Tsalala pride probably pushed them another 2 or 3 times last night, and that's what caused them to come onto quarantine. Nice big open, very difficult for a lion to sneak up to a buffalo in an open area like this. And here we can have a look. It's almost a perfect circle. And of course we'll even brave the flies that surround this much buffalo dung just for you guys. So you can see it's almost a perfect circle. So all 200 plus buffalo were corralled into this section, and you can see how they've dug up the earth, the amount of dung that's everywhere. So what they've done is they would have put the big males on the edge. So the big buffalo bulls would have been right on the edge of this circle, this corral, this defensive laager, and they would have been right on the edge with the females and with the young calves sitting in the middle, and you can actually see that from the dung. if we look in the center, there's quite a lot of smaller pats that would have been from younger animals. And then as you go out towards the edge, big pats from the bulls. Now it looks like the buffalo have completely decimated all the grass and plants and ground here. And the complete opposite is true. Buffalo is one of the most important cogs in an ecosystem, especially big herds like that. What they do is they walk through and they churn up the soil, and that helps spread grass seeds and as well as adding an incredible amount of natural fertilizer. So you can just see this. Quarantine, if we get a bit of rain, is in for some really good, oh look who's here, some really good growth with all this fertilizer. But now with the dung comes a whole host of other animals. Flies, not too many dung beetles yet because of the lack of rain, but to come feed off whatever's there are various different bird species here. We have a little red-billed hornbill, completely oblivious to us, poking around, eating whatever insects it can find. I'm just looking carefully across here, and it is incredible. Oh, what's he found? Oh, something. Little titbit. Getting nice and warm. There's some cloud building in the east, but nothing too serious. I'm hoping it's not another cold front coming through. I think we've had enough cold weather. It's supposed to be warm. Haven't been able to use the swimming pool for a few days. So this incredible fertilizer. So for those of you who might be new viewers, if we have a look around, so I live just over there, and Eugene, Jamie, myself, and Scott and Nikki live there. And if we go over this way, let's move a little bit to the left, we can see our tower, and below that tower is final control, and just to the left of final control down there is where the rest of the team lives and eats, and we all eat there and have our dinners there as a big group at what we call the DRC, not the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Djuma Research Camp. Oh, I think I can still hear those buffalo in the distance. So those buffalo moved across there. James is looking for the lions somewhere in that area. Hopefully he finds them. So it's so wonderful having these big herds of buffalo around. And Jana from Illinois is wondering, is it unusual for big herds of buffalo like this to travel together? Not at all, Jana. So your breeding animals will move like that. So your prime bulls and your females will stay in a big herd like that, and there'll be constant mating and calving. They birth throughout the year. Watch out, Brian, landmine. And oh, what is that? What is that? Ah, starlings. Well, let's see if we can get a bit close to them while we chat about the buffalo. So, and also one of the most important things about being in a big herd like that is safety in numbers. And also, as you would have seen this morning, they're able to rush to fence those lions and push them away. And also, the odds of being eaten when there's 200 plus of you is far less. You've got a 1 in 200 chance rather than a 1 in 1 chance. So when those prime bulls sort of get too old and they'll be pushed out by younger bulls, that's where we find those groups of buffalo bulls, and those groups of buffalo bulls even then still have that herding instinct, and they want to be together, and that's all protection from the different predators. And you can literally see where these buffalo have come across quarantine. Now this looks like they've been not so static. You can see that the dung's a bit more broken up, and it's possible that this is one from the lions moving them and pushing them till they found this nice open area to stop in, and they felt safe enough because it's really open and the lion can't sneak up to them on the open area. Well, there, those starlings. You can hear calling. So, along with buffalo come an incredible amount of ectoparasites. And this ectoparasite is so full of buffalo blood. He has just dropped off. So there's a huge grey tick. And that thing is literally full of blood. The moment he's pretending to be dead, let's see, I'm going to turn him over so you can see his legs. He was squirming when I first saw him. So, there we go. So he is very much alive. And he has literally glutted himself or herself on blood. And once they're full of blood, they'll drop off and either lay eggs, probably now. But there we go. And those are some of those big ticks we occasionally see on elephant and even on lions from time to time. But a really, really fat tick here. And it is, as Brian says, horrifying. So a tick like this in one litter can probably produce 10,000 babies. And especially us, when we're on walking safaris, those babies we often call pepper ticks. They're literally the size of the peppercorn. And they munch around our ankles, behind our knees, and we are constantly in battle with ticks after walking, especially after a large herd of buffalo has gone through. Not in an area like quarantine, fortunately, no long grass here, but in longer grass areas, there are a big problem. So I'm going to pop the tick back where I found her, and even though they're not the most, well, there we go, did you see the little antenna move? Wondering if it's safe to try move. I don't know how she's going to move being that fat. And that's the wonderful thing about being on a walking safari. You see little things like that that you would definitely not spot from a vehicle. Okay. What else have we got here? There's always a story, a sort of newspaper that can be read in the morning when you come look at all the tracks and what's happened, and coupled with what you can hear at night, you can sort of piece together bit by bit what happened during the hours of darkness. So what I was hoping is there might be some giraffe on quarantine somewhere. So, with this incredible amount of buffalo dung around us, Kathy from Tennessee was wondering, do we ever use it to start our fire in our camp? Fortunately not, Kathy. We have a lot of wood, and I won't lie, and a lot of us have worked in some very tough areas of Africa where we had to be really tough, and at the moment we don't have to be as tough as we used to. There's a wonderful thing that are called firelighters, and they come with our weekly shopping order, so nice and easy to light a fire these days. No need to rub two sticks together and play with poo. So there's been that lovely big group of giraffe that have been hanging around this western edge of quarantine. So we're going to see if they're still here. Well, Sid is worried for Brian and my safety. Don't worry, Sid. Sid wants to know how safe we are walking in close proximity with the lions. I've got a stick, Sid. That's all I need. No, I'm joking, Sid. So human and lion behavior is quite an interesting thing, and we developed into our sort of modern forms around the same time, about 200,000 years ago. And even before that, our ancestral forms, bipedal apes, and watch behind you, the termite mouse. Bipedal apes and historic lions have shared the African savannas for around 1 million, 2 million years. So both of us have very instinctive responses to each other. So strangely enough, even if people think they're really scared and you're on a walking safari, and it happens very seldom that you're charged by lions, the lions charge, the only thing you can do in that situation is stand still. And everyone who thinks they'll run, instinct takes over, their feet literally become planted in concrete, and even though they are so scared, they might need a change of underwear, they don't move. Also, 99% of the time when walking lions on foot, in the daylight hours, they will run away from us. We're the dominant diurnal predator. We're one of the only animals that has this incredible ability to deal with heat. So if a lion exerts too much energy in the daylight and their core body temperature raises by just a few degrees, they'll die. So that is why they rest so much. They sleep for 20 hours a day. And on foot, lion is actually probably one of the safer animals to approach. The more risky ones generally are, or not more risky, just there's a potential for more danger, are elephants, in particularly breeding herds, and old buffalo bulls. Well, it doesn't look like the giraffe here. Obviously, there's been too much pandemonium. Lions, buffalo, everywhere. So while we're on foot, Jennifer's wondering if we ever feel like we're being watched or stalked by any predators. Not really, Jennifer. I never really feel that. Quite often when I'm on foot, I'm in search of predators, and if they started stalking me, it'd make it a little bit easier for me to find them. As I said, generally with this bipedal figure, the dominant diurnal predator, most animals, lions, hyenas, leopards, will try and move away from you on foot during the day. But do not try this during the nighttime. You will get eaten. We change roles there. Lions become the dominant predator as soon as darkness sets. They can see, we can't. And that is one of the very strange reasons that a lot of people don't realize. As the sun starts setting, a lot of people want to go home. And now that's an instinctive response from when we lived on the African savannas to protect us from these nocturnal predators. So when you want to go home when it's dark, it means you're worried about the lions, you need to get home to the cave. But obviously, as humans evolve, we are constantly evolving. A lot of that is changing slightly, and we do get this new sort of night owl, the night owl race. Unfortunately for the night owls, if you lived in the bush, it wouldn't be very good for you. Oh, it seems like with all these lions and buffalo around, quarantine is absolutely empty. So we had a look at that nice big fat tick, and Ginny Hobbs is wondering, do they ever burst from overeating? Not that I know of, Ginny. They will normally generally let go beforehand. They've sort of sated themselves on whatever animal's blood, and then they'll just drop off. Oh, let's go have a look at that acacia. Well, still on the subject of ticks, we've got a very interesting question from Anna Marie. She's wondering, do we have Lyme disease in Africa? We don't, Anna Marie. We've got a very close relative of Lyme disease called, the proper name for it is rickettsia, or tick bite fever. And there are various different forms depending through Africa. I'm fortunately immune to the form that's around here from being bitten as a child by lots and lots of ticks. But I was actually got a very rare form of that disease when I was in the Central African rainforests. I got an elephant-born rickettsia, so a tick that only feeds off forest elephants happened to feed off me, and also, or not only, but mostly is found on elephants in the rainforest, and it is in some ways quite similar symptoms-wise to Lyme disease: hot and cold fevers, swollen glands, and night sweats, and losing weight, and sort of lack of sleep. So it took quite a while, because it's quite a rare one. When I had it, it took about 3 months to figure out what it was after I got back from the rainforest. Fortunately, one of my best friends is a very good doctor, and he was able to figure it out eventually after about, I think they took 35 vials of blood. I've been tested for almost every African disease under the sun: sleeping sickness, dengue, literally the list goes on and on and on and on. And at the end, it turned out to be quite an easy one to treat, a form of rickettsia. So, where we were following those lions hunting last night is in that thick bush over there, and that's obviously a far better area for the lions to hunt buffalo, provides them a lot more cover than an open area like the quarantine clearings. However, one must remember that there are areas where lions hunt buffalo in open all the time, and they'll just apply a different strategy. So must always remember, animal behavior is quite often not species specific but area specific. So lions hunting buffalo here will have different tactics, even from lions 40 kilometers from here, and even more so for lions in the Serengeti or the South Luangwa or northern Botswana. Well, we've got quite a interesting tree here, and it's quite strangely being pushed over because it's not a tree elephants would feed on often. And actually looking at what's happened here, I think what's happened here is that the elephants have pushed over the torchwood to get to the leadwood, and you can see this little leadwood's been fed off extensively by elephants, and the torchwood just unfortunately bore the brunt. But a lot of you guys see us drive over a lot of trees and branches and warrior. Here we can see quite a big tree that's already been pushed over by elephants, which is still very much alive, and you can see it'll go around to the opposite side. Oh, it's growing without a problem, but I didn't even notice that before. There is an old nest of some kind in this tree, and it's very difficult, very old to see what bird it might have been. But another name for this particular tree, the torchwood, is the green thorn. It doesn't actually have true thorns. I'm coming around to join you on this side here, and we got to find, there we go, nice fresh little branchlet, and you can see the spines are very green, and that's where it gets one of its common names from. And it is one of the only trees I've never seen a leopard sitting in. But James has, so I'm quite jealous. And one day I hope to see a leopard lying in a nice big torchwood tree. Oh, there we go. First. The first wild sage flower of the season. I've seen quite a lot of them growing, but here's the first dwarf wild sage flower. Lovely. And for those of you who've been watching for a while, remember I read somewhere that it's used as a natural insect repellent. So I just tried to rub it all over myself to keep the flies at bay. And when I went and did a bit more research, I should have done that first. So what happens is, if you take a whole bunch of leaves like this and you crush them, you boil them in water, and quite a lot of leaves, so you need a serious amount of them, and then boil them, and then strain the leaves, and then put that into a bottle, and then use that as an insect repellent. So not the leaves themselves. I think they need to be boiled to let the chemicals come out. So while we continue around, see what other interesting little flowers and whatnots we can find on the quarantine clearings, we're going to go see if James has had any success finding those lions.
Hello everyone. I'm afraid, as Brent said, we'll go and see if James has had any success. The fact that James is bungling around without any lions in front of him is indicative of the fact that he has had no success. I did drive that block fairly flat. We found some more impalas who I described as relaxed, and Andrew said they looked like they're on holiday. Indeed they did, which is not kind of the disposition of something about to be savaged by Africa's most terrifying predator. So I don't think that they are necessarily in that block, but as Andrew says, more big cats have been lost in that block than most of us have had hot meals. So they could still be in there, I'm not really sure. Anyway, there are a few things I want to show you here. I still think they're going to maybe come back to have a drink a little bit later. First is this tree, which is called Acacia burkii. It's this one here. It's called it's a black monkey thorn in English. Andrew's just going to clean his lens. It's Andrew's finger. Wonderful. The reason I want to show you this tree we so seldom have sweet smelling flowers out here, and it's only round about this time of year, and so one really must make hay while the sun doth shine. And this is an acacia flower, and it really has got the most wonderful spring scent. There you are, Andrew. I'm offering it to you. It's nice, eh?
This is what we smelled yesterday, isn't it?
Exactly what we smelled yesterday. We came past here yesterday hoping to show you this on our bushwalk, but unfortunately the signal let us down. It smells like subtle sort of jasmine. It really is a kind of jasmine type smell, but most of the flowers out here are very subtle smelling. It's just like the fruits. The fruits are not kind of big and overwhelming. You kind of got to look for them, but when you find them, subtly very delicious, as it is with the flowers. Right, so that's the black monkey thorn, probably often confused for a knobthorn tree, but definitely Acacia burkii, black monkey thorn. And then I'll tell you what, Andrew, if you point the camera towards that that dead tree, I'm going to go and check on my orchid. You will see me emerge shortly. Or you will hear me scream. Right. Hello. I planted an orchid pod here about 2 months ago now, and I come and check it periodically to see if it is in fact growing. Now we have something called a leopard orchid out here for our new viewers, and it's a beautiful kind of basket-shaped epiphytic orchid. Now what epiphyte means is that it's a plant that needs support from another plant but doesn't actually cause it any harm. So it's not a parasite at all, it's called epiphyte. And I put the pod from one of these things in a hole here, just out of your sort of line of vision. And I see that it has actually opened up, but I don't see any kind of root system developing yet. But the fact that it has opened up is filling me with a great deal of hope that perhaps it will grow. I'm not very inspired by it, I have to say. I feel like if it was going to grow, it would have started already, but I do see that the pod is opening slightly. So either it's being mauled by a number of very grateful insects, or it's about to start to sprout. Right, let me return. Luckily my foot isn't sore. Andrew, there's a giraffe coming down there into the gap. We'll just get above it. It's really nice to have a head-high view of a giraffe. Isn't that a lovely picture? Wonderful giraffe bull. Plug myself back in. So that kind of excitement of the morning, that sense of huge action, it starts with the first breaking sign of the dawn, the buffalo calling, the odd lion's roar, has been replaced now by that kind of calmness that takes over when the heat starts to build. It's not very hot. but it's definitely, the atmosphere has changed completely from the immense excitement and anticipation of the morning to one of much more peace and sort of calm, tranquility. You can hear the wonderful sound of the birds, and especially the orange-breasted bushshrike going. Lots of birds calling through the trees in this drainage line. Very lovely. Right, well, I think what we're going to do now is probably just gently make our way around. I'm pretty sure the lions went where we looked for them, and there is such thick bush in there that, you know, if they had been in there, it's not that surprising that we didn't find them. But I think what we'll do is head around here, and just in case they didn't cross the road and turn south rather than north. Now, normally we just follow their tracks and try and follow their tracks, but of course their tracks were obliterated by those hoofbeats from about 300 buffalo. So finding lion tracks underneath all of that is going to be a little bit difficult. So we're going to drive slowly around that direction there and see if we can't spot, maybe they're in the bush there lying in the shade, and maybe they're popping out. Let's go and have a look, see. Seen a lot of giraffe of late, and we've seen many little ones. Yesterday Andrew and I had a very special sighting on foot of some calves with their mothers, and there was a bull lurking around. And Ashley, good question, do males and females raise the giraffe babies? No, they don't. Bulls, like with most mammals in the animal kingdom, have nothing to do with child rearing. Their sole contribution to the process of the next generation is a roughly 3.5 second mounting at the beginning of the 14-month period of gestation. So they make no contribution at all. 3.5 seconds is all it takes for a male giraffe to leave an heir, and after that his responsibility is over. Very slowly going to drive around here, just in case. Those lions didn't pop up. Now, of course, ideally, in a sighting like we had this morning, what we would have done is probably pulled 2 vehicles into it, so that one could follow the lions and one could follow the buffalo. That's often a very nice way to be viewing lions on the hunt, or wild dogs on the hunt, or any animal on the hunt too. I'm astonished by that leopard that we had earlier, and the way she just galloped across the road like that. A long time after the Nyala had gone. She'd obviously decided that baby Nyala was not long for this world and she was going to follow it. Not nice to be followed by an animal as adept at hunting as that leopard is. So I'm going to go a little bit up this road here. We may lose signal. If we do start to lose signal, I'll turn around and come back. See what else we can find towards the waterhole. You want to know where oxpeckers nest. You say it looks to you like they nest on giraffe. Lisa G, they do not nest in giraffes. That would be not a good place to nest. They nest in trees exactly like the one in front of me here. So they'll find a hollow in a tree like this, and probably a hole that's been excavated by a barbet or a woodpecker, or maybe just a section of the heartwood that's rotted away. And what they do is they'll go into the hole, they'll take a lot of the animal fur and the animals that they feed on into the nest and line it, and then they lay their eggs in there, and they're a communal nesting bird. So there'll be a breeding pair within a group that will breed, and then the youngsters that are born will help to raise the next generation. You will see that there are a number of flies around here. Speaking of flies, the man on foot, Brent, is walking in amongst the patties of dung, and he has something else to show you, so I'll hand you back to him. We'll carry on up the road here and see you a little bit later.
Hi everyone. We found a beautiful little flower, and there's two of these species around here that look really similar. So there's the blue commelina, which I've showed you before. This is not a blue commelina. This is a Bengal commelina. The flowers are slightly smaller, the leaves slightly smaller, and you can actually even see the little hairs coming off the leaves if I turn it sideways, tiny little white hairs. But very beautiful little flower, and it's got quite an interesting story. The commelina family is named after Swedish botanists, a trio of 3 Swedish botanists, and they're all brothers obviously, and 2 made really major scientific discoveries, and they're represented leaves coming through by these 2 big petals, and the third died before he could do anything very important, and he's represented by that tiny little petal at the base there. And this is a beautiful little flower, and one of the more common flower species, the commelina. We get 3 common variants here: the Bengal commelina, which is this one, and blue commelina, and then the yellow commelina. So all exactly the same shape, but as I said, the difference between the blue and the Bengal's flowers are much smaller. But we're going to keep looking, and I love the flower season, and it keeps me very focused on all the little things around. And as wonderful it is having lions chasing buffaloes, they're not there every day, but the flowers are at this time of the year. So we have a look here. We're near the crest of a little hill, and we've been talking about how dry the season is, and all around us here you see there's very small silver cluster leaves, these terminalias, and they can actually be quite damaging to the bush, and especially during a very wet cycle. So the water drains from the top of the hills down the slope towards the drainage line, and these are natural seep lines, and they are on very specific soils. So if we look at the soil here, I'm going to just move a little bit here, it's really sandy, but it is a duplex soil, and depending on the duplex soils, I think this one's probably a little bit too deep, but we'll just give it a go. Yeah, I think we're going to have to dig a bit too much, but on the duplex soils, you've got the sand, which drains incredibly fast the water through, but varying from 0.5 meter to 2 meters to 3 meters, judging by what trees are growing here, I'd probably say it's probably between 1 meter and 3 meters deep, the sandy section. Then you've got a very hard clay section. So what happens is the water drains through the sand, hits the clay, and then follows the slope down to the drainage line. Now these areas are where your best grasses grow for the grazing animals. And when you have an incredibly wet cycle, and animals like elephants spend most of their time eating grass, and they ignore all these little trees that are around us, and you can actually change the water table. So going into a dry cycle now is probably quite good for the bush, because the elephants are going to be forced to focus on trees like these little terminalias here, and therefore keep that sort of natural flow of water and keep the good grasses in this area. So that's why we do have wet and dry cycles. It's that nature looking after itself. And as you can see, this long line all along here of these tiny little trees that are taking a lot of the water and the nutrients. So if we look around where these little trees are growing, quite a lot of your really great grass grazing species are already sort of disappearing, and you're left with moderate to poor grazing species. I'm going to have a look now. We're going to move slightly above this line of trees and see if we can find you some good grazing grasses. There we go. Lovely little giant land snail shell, not an adult, quite old. You can see it's faded from the sun. That's what your alarm calling at. You just heard that. Grey, go away. Bird started alarming, and there's a Wahlberg's eagle flying over. Kindly coming towards us. So you can see why it's a Wahlberg's eagle. They've got an incredibly straight tail, so very narrow and very straight, where there's quite a lot of the other eagles have a much wider tail that will be spread. Very straight tail. It's probably one of the nesting pair that nest very close to the Djuma Dam, and they return to nest in the same spot every year. Isn't that wonderful? So, back to the snail. So this isn't a particularly big one. It could have died from various different reasons. Maybe insects have eaten it out, or it could have just got stuck during a very dry time. But very old, the brown, dark brown's gone, and the sun has bleached it. The weather has taken its toll on it. But interesting enough, giant land snails, one of their biggest prey species is, and can you believe it, a snail is a hunter, is other snails. So they eat your smaller snail species, not only, but one of their important parts of their diet. Doesn't seem we can even walk without seeing something interesting today. Now here's quite an interesting little hole, and judging from its size, you can see it's been cleaned out overnight, and we've got lots of stuff here. There's a little pellet, a little dung pellet, quite a big one, and we can see little seeds that have been chewed, and there's a little marula nut that's been chewed and opened, and a lot of all the rubbish has just been thrown out. But there we go, another little terminalia seed that's been eaten, and more than likely this is from a bushveld gerbil, which is one of the larger rodent species we get around here, and wonderful little foragers that move around at night on these open clearings collecting grass seeds, marula seeds, terminalia seeds, and they will also eat insects as well. This one doesn't seem to have any exoskeletons in their little midden, and they've obviously done a sort of spring clean now that we're in the spring, taken out all the nonsense that they've left inside their burrow. Okay, let's carry on looking for these grasses. And here is a good grazing grass, not an unbelievable grazing grass, but it is a relatively good one. And it is an Eragrosta species, and it is called saw-edged lovegrass. So some of the seeds of this species, let me let go, probably be easier, it doesn't move as much. Some of the seeds of this species are very heart-shaped. This one has got the saw edges, so saw-edged lovegrass, and named after Eros. And I can never remember whether Eros was the Greek or Roman goddess of love. You remember, Brian? No, our mythology is a bit rusty, but the nice thing, if you do what I've done as a kid, there we go, and with these nicer grazing species, when you chew them, you can actually taste, they're very sweet, so you do get that nice little sugary taste, and often while walking in the bush or as kids, And even as adults, you'll see lots of people who spend a lot of time in the bush. If they see some of those sweet grasses, they'll pick them up and chew them while they're strolling. Okay, so unfortunately there's none of the Thermida, which is Natal red grass, which was the grass I was looking for. And that is the best quality grazing grass we get in this area and highly sought after by many animals, and that often grows on these seep lines. So, but it's been wonderful having you on a bush walk / bush drive. So wonderful to start off with that nice big herd of elephants and then bump into Kruger while we're moving through to walk into a different area, and then always lovely to look at the little things out here on the clearings. And I am a little bit jealous about that lion-buffalo interaction you guys had this morning. I would have loved to be there, but that's so the cookie crumbles. And don't forget to join us for the Sunset Safari. Brian and I will be on foot, but for the last few minutes, hopefully James actually does some work today and finds those lions.
Hello everyone. The reason I'm laughing is that I spotted a butterfly called the citrus swallowtail, a very beautiful yellow and black butterfly, and as I was about to suggest to Andrew that he face the camera towards it, he said, don't even think about asking me to film that butterfly. Of course, filming a moving butterfly is likely to make all of you very motion sick indeed, and so we decided against it. I'm afraid I've done a huge loop around to find out where those lions are. I do not know where they are, I'm afraid. The buffalo have come, they turned, they were heading due north. We're now heading pretty much due south. They turned due north and headed towards Sydney's Dam. Now that's just inside Buffelshoek, and that's where the Salala Pride killed 3 of their number this week. Not this week, well last week. In the last week. And so you can see their movements are becoming entirely predictable. And those lions, I suspect, will start, maybe when they get up later today, they'll start to track the herd. They're just very easy to track buffalo, of course, because they leave those patties everywhere and they leave a very strong smell. They came right across where we're driving now, towards the water, and I think you'll find that those lions will be found trailing them probably sometime during the course of this evening. We are now, of course, pretty much wrapped up for the drive. May come across something exciting in the next few minutes, which would be very nice. That's your head, Andrew. But it's warming up nicely, although there does seem to be a bit of a front coming through. And I must say I'm most grateful for the cloud cover. Because as I said, it gets extremely, extremely hot in these parts at this time of the year, especially if there's no rain. Sorry, I must just move this out of the way. I'll tell you what it is. Ah, it's the Eugene tree. It's a tree called Strychnos madagascarensis, or the black monkey orange, and doesn't look like much now, but it does produce a nasty toxin called strychnine, and we always thought that it was just in the seeds that the strychnine was made, but Eugene, our technical genius, managed to scratch himself on some of that the other day. Well, I think who was he helping? I actually think it was Brent Leo Smith.
Change a tire.
I think it was Jamie. It was Jamie, not Brent. Jamie was parked in an aardvark hole and he was helping her out of that. He scratched himself with one of those trees and the wound festered horribly, and it took about more than a month actually for it to heal properly. So a bit of strychnine in all of the tree, and it's an encroacher species out here. And you can see it grows in little... in the absence of elephants it gets quite big, but it's an encroacher species that forms thickets. On the subject of trees, Dr. Debbie, you want to know how many how many members of the acacia family there are, how many species. A lot. I don't know actually exactly the number. Out here in this particular area we've probably got about 10, and they're actually not called acacias anymore. Then there are a number of other representatives in the same family. And remember, acacia is not a family, it's a genus. The family is called the Mimosidae, and within that you'll have the Australian acacias, what used to be the African acacias. They're now called Vachellia, but because nobody knows what Vachellia means, we just use the term acacia anyway as a generic. So I would say probably in the Mimosidae, I would say upward of 100 species throughout the world. You find them everywhere, except in the New World. I don't think you find them in the New World. Certainly not naturally anyway. So what I say is Acacia burkii is actually now Vachellia burkii. And that's because the Australian trees somehow managed to get the name. I'm not sure why. I think that's very unfair, especially as anywhere in the world, if you say, oh, that's an acacia tree, they think of a large African umbrella thorn, possibly with a lion lying underneath it, or an elephant or a giraffe chewing at its boughs. So quite a few of them, and certainly out here, I mean, I'll try and name them off the top of my head. We've got, I'll give you the different species. We've got a Robusta, Nigrescens burkii, Exuvialis, many, yeah, we've got at least 10 or 12 species in this particular area. Now, Maribeth in Canada, you want to know when the rainy season is. Maribeth, you and all of us as well would like to know when the rainy season is going to be this year. We're in it, basically. We're at the very early stages of what would be the rainy season, and it will probably rain, I think, we'll probably get our proper rains around about the 20th of November. That was my guess. We did have one really nice day of rain early in September, a little bit unseasonal, but I do think that we're going to get proper rains probably only at the end of November. So that's quite an interesting one. I'm just trying to think of any of the acacia trees that I may have left out. I'm sure there are some. Now, 10 or 12 around here. Now called Vachellia. Very unfair. And there are some zebra. And they, of course, are not called zebra at all. They're called zebra. I'm not sure why they're called zebra, actually, in the States. Nice. We'll just follow them slowly down the road here. So it's time for us to shut off, and very nice to do so with some zebra. A big thank you to you for your questions and contributions. Lovely to hear from you, Zoli. Very stimulating. We'll just stop here. Thank you to Andrew on camera, Tara and Nikki, not Nikki, Tara and Louise in the final control, Brent and Brian on the other vehicle, and of course Eugene in the, well, you know, he's knocking about doing things that are unfathomable. Keep safe, keep strong, and we will see you this afternoon for the morning safari, or evening safari and walk. Bye-bye, and thanks very much.